Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if your beauty still shines the way it used to? Let me tell you something important. Real beauty doesn't fade, it evolves. Hello, I'm Dr. David Collins, and I've spent decades working with older adults, helping them recognize the strength, dignity, and quiet beauty that come with age. In a world obsessed with smooth skin and youthful curves, it's easy to feel invisible as the years go by. But I want to challenge that idea, because true attractiveness, especially in women over 60, has little to do with the shape of your body or the number of candles on your last birthday cake. It lives in your presence, in how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you make others feel when they're around you. The truth is, aging reveals beauty in ways that youth simply cannot. There's a unique glow in someone who has lived, who has loved, who has overcome hardships, and who now walks with quiet confidence. It's not something you can buy in a bottle or replicate with makeup. It's something that grows stronger the more you embrace who you truly are. So today, I want to share with you 8 clear signs that you are, perhaps without realizing it, an incredibly attractive older woman. These signs aren't based on what society says is beautiful. They're rooted in real human connection, in how people respond to your energy, your voice, your presence. And believe me, these signs can show up in the smallest moments. A compliment from a stranger, the way someone listens to you when you speak, or how people seem to gravitate toward you without knowing why. I've seen this time and time again in the women I've worked with. Women who thought their best years were behind them, only to discover that their real glow came from self-acceptance and lived experience. And when they stopped chasing youth, they began to radiate something far more powerful, an elegance, a warmth, a charisma that turns heads for all the right reasons. Now, I'm not here to give you rules about how to look younger or pretend to be someone you're not. Quite the opposite. I'm here to help you see the value in who you are today, wrinkles, silver hair, and all. Because when you carry yourself with grace, when you speak from a place of wisdom and kindness, and when you know your worth without needing anyone else to confirm it, that's when your beauty becomes undeniable. So if you've ever questioned your attractiveness or wondered whether others still notice you, stay with me. You might just discover that you've been radiating beauty all along. You just needed someone to reflect it back to you. One of the clearest signs of true attractiveness in older women is the calm, grounded energy they bring into every room. It's not loud or attention-seeking, but steady and unmistakable. People feel safe, seen, and even soothed when they're around you. This kind of energy only comes with time, with the lessons of experience, and with the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. You may notice that younger people often turn to you for advice or comfort, not just because of your age, but because they sense your emotional stability. You don't overreact, you don't chase validation, your words carry weight, and your silence often speaks even louder. That kind of presence is rare, and people are drawn to it without even realizing why. This quiet magnetism shows up in simple interactions. Maybe someone at the grocery store smiles at you a little longer than usual. Maybe your grandchild lingers by your side even when others are around. Or perhaps a friend tells you how much they value your opinion, even on topics you thought weren't important. These are signs that your presence has impact. You make people feel grounded, safe, and accepted. There's also a spiritual beauty in women who've made peace with themselves. You've lived through heartbreak, joy, uncertainty, and growth. And instead of letting those experiences make you bitter, they've softened you. That softness is powerful. It gives you the ability to hold space for others, to listen without judgment, and to love without condition. These qualities aren't flashy, but they are magnetic. People remember how you made them feel, and that's the kind of beauty that lingers. Science even backs this up. Studies in behavioral psychology show that we're naturally drawn to individuals who display emotional regulation and calm body language. In groups, these individuals tend to become informal leaders, not because they demand authority, but because others instinctively trust and follow them. This applies just as much in families and social settings as it does in professional life. And sometimes, you'll notice this magnetic presence in the smallest gestures, the way someone lights up when they see you, or how strangers seem more relaxed around you. That's not coincidence. It's a reflection of the inner calm you've cultivated over time. You don't need to dominate a room to leave an impression. You simply need to show up as yourself. And often, that's more than enough to be unforgettable. If no one has told you lately, let me say it now. The way you walk into a room, the way you smile, the way you listen, it all matters. These are acts of presence, and they leave emotional footprints. You're not just someone passing through people's lives, you're a grounding force, a quiet light, a reminder that true beauty doesn't have to announce itself, it just has to be lived. There's something quietly powerful about the way people respond when a woman speaks with grace, presence, and confidence. And if you've ever noticed that others truly listen when you talk, that their eyes meet yours, they nod along and seem fully present, it might be a stronger sign of your beauty than you think. While we often associate attractiveness with outward appearance, especially in our younger years, the truth is, real beauty deepens with time. It begins to show through how we carry ourselves, how we connect with others, and how we communicate without even trying. Let me ask you something. Have you ever shared a story at a family gathering and noticed how everyone seemed to pause and really pay attention? Maybe a young woman looked at you with admiration, or a friend leaned in, hanging on your every word. That moment, simple as it may seem, is a powerful reflection of your presence. People are naturally drawn to individuals who speak with clarity and warmth, who make them feel heard and respected. And when that person is you, it's not just your words they're listening to, it's the quiet magnetism behind them. Take Mary, for example. She's 74, a retired librarian, and never thought of herself as particularly beautiful. But everywhere she went, whether it was a neighborhood event or the local coffee shop, people seemed to seek her out. Strangers would strike up conversations. Friends would often say they felt calm and safe when talking with her. One younger woman once told her, "You speak in a way that makes people want to listen." And that's exactly it. What makes a woman truly captivating isn't a flawless face or perfect hair. It's the energy she brings into the room, the wisdom in her tone, and the way she makes people feel when she speaks. Eye contact plays a big role here. It's one of the most instinctive ways we show connection. When someone looks you in the eye, not in a hurried or distracted way, but with full presence, it means they see something in you that commands attention. Not because you're demanding it, but because it flows from you naturally. Your warmth, your ease, your quiet confidence, it all speaks volumes, even before you open your mouth. The way you carry yourself in conversation also adds to this effect. When you speak clearly and listen with intention, when your voice is calm yet certain, people notice. They don't just hear your words, they feel them. It leaves an impression, the kind that lingers long after the conversation ends. That's a beauty no makeup or trend can replicate. So if you found that people look at you when you speak, truly look, not out of politeness, but out of genuine interest. Take a moment to recognize what that means. If friends lean in when you share your thoughts, if strangers seem to open up in your presence, or if someone has ever said you have a calming way about you, believe them. These are signs that your presence alone is beautiful. And as the years go by, it only becomes more refined, more magnetic, and more meaningful. There's a certain peace that comes when you stop comparing yourself to others. It doesn't happen overnight, but when it does, it's one of the most liberating feelings a woman can experience, and one of the clearest signs of deep, lasting beauty. You see, comparison is something many of us are taught early on. As young girls, we might have compared our looks to a sister, a classmate, or a face on a magazine cover. And over time, that habit can sneak into nearly every part of our lives. How we dress, how we age, even how we love. But as we grow older, something changes. At some point, maybe gradually, maybe all at once, we begin to understand that our worth doesn't come from looking like someone else or living someone else's life. Instead, it begins to bloom from within. When you stop wondering whether your skin should be tighter or your life more glamorous, you begin to notice something far more important. Your own voice, your own rhythm, your own presence. I remember speaking with a woman named Elaine who turned 70 last year. She told me something I'll never forget. She said, "When I was younger, I walked into a room hoping people would like me. Now I walk in already knowing I like myself." That shift from seeking approval to standing in your own truth is beautiful. It doesn't mean you stop caring about how you look. It means you start caring about how you feel. You start dressing for comfort, not competition. You choose joy over judgment. And little by little, you realize you don't need to be more like her. You just need to be more like you. That kind of self-assurance doesn't just affect how you feel on the inside. It radiates outward. People can sense when a woman is at peace with herself. It shows in her posture, in her tone, in the way she smiles without needing permission. There's no tension in trying to be something she's not. Instead, there's a quiet strength in simply being who she is. In many ways, letting go of comparison is like setting down a heavy bag you didn't even realize you were carrying. It frees up energy to focus on what really matters: your relationships, your health, your passions. It gives you space to reflect and grow, rather than trying to measure up to someone else's standards. And in doing so, you become more grounded, more centered, more alive. So if you found yourself no longer worrying about how you measure up, that's not just a sign of confidence, it's a sign of beauty. Because true beauty isn't about rising above others, it's about rising into yourself. And when you reach that place, when you look in the mirror and feel both grace and gratitude, you've arrived at something no age can diminish, a beauty that belongs entirely to you. On stage, one of the most beautiful shifts that happens with age is the ability to say no and mean it without carrying the weight of guilt. For many women, especially those raised to be caretakers, people pleasers, or peacekeepers, the word no can feel sharp and uncomfortable. It's as if turning down a request, even politely, might risk disappointing someone or being seen as selfish. But here's the truth. Saying no is not an act of rejection. It's an act of self-respect. As we move into our 60s, 70s, and beyond, we start to understand something essential, that our time, energy, and emotional bandwidth are deeply valuable. And protecting those things doesn't make us cold, it makes us wise. When a woman can say, "No, I'm not available," or "No, that's not for me," and still feel at peace, she's showing a strength that's quiet but unmistakable. I once had a patient named Ruth, a retired teacher in her late 70s. She told me how, for decades, she volunteered for every church event, babysat for all her grandkids, and said yes to every social invitation, even when she felt exhausted. Then one day she had a realization. "I'm not a bad person for having limits," she said. "I'm just human." From that point on, Ruth made it a practice to pause before agreeing to anything. She checked in with her own body, her own needs. And if the answer was no, she gave herself permission to honor that. That's what boundaries really are. Not walls to shut others out, but doors to protect what's sacred inside. And when a woman begins to trust her inner compass, her no becomes just as powerful as her yes. There's clarity in her voice, there's calm in her decision, and there's no apology for choosing herself. Think about how much energy is saved when we stop overcommitting. Think about how much space opens up for rest, for hobbies, for deep conversations, when we no longer say yes out of guilt or fear. This isn't just emotional growth, it's a form of beauty. Because there's something deeply magnetic about a woman who stands in her truth with kindness but firmness. She doesn't over-explain. She doesn't second-guess. She simply knows what's right for her. And that energy of self-trust and self-care radiates in subtle but undeniable ways. People begin to respect her time more. She models something powerful for the younger women in her life. She becomes not just admired, but deeply grounded. That's the kind of woman others lean into, not because she gives endlessly, but because she knows how to give wisely. So if you've learned how to say no with grace and without guilt, know that you're not only protecting your peace, you're embodying a kind of beauty that grows stronger with age. A beauty rooted in knowing your worth and living in alignment with it. If this reflection speaks to you and you want to keep exploring what it means to age with confidence, strength, and heart, go ahead and click subscribe. There's so much more waiting for you on this journey. There's a quiet kind of confidence that blossoms when a woman no longer fears being alone. Not lonely, but alone. There's a difference. Loneliness aches for someone to fill a space. But solitude? Solitude is full. It's a space you choose, a space that nurtures and restores. By the time we reach our 60s or 70s, many of us have gone through seasons of deep connection and deep loss. We've been wives, mothers, daughters, caregivers. We've loved fiercely and said goodbye painfully. And in those chapters, we often poured so much of ourselves into others that we forgot what it felt like just to be with ourselves. But something shifts with age. One day, you sit in your kitchen with a cup of tea, no one else around, and suddenly it feels enough. You're not scrolling, not rushing, not reaching, you're simply being. And in that quiet moment, you realize, I know myself now. I enjoy my own thoughts, my own rhythm, my own company. This isn't about isolation. It's about intimacy with your own soul. And it's magnetic. When a woman feels at ease in her own skin, people sense it. She's not chasing approval. She's not afraid of silence. She's not filling her calendar just to feel useful. She chooses her connections intentionally because she doesn't need noise to feel alive. I remember meeting a woman named Clara at a community wellness group. She was 74 and had been widowed for over a decade. She told me she still missed her husband dearly, but she also found joy in her own routines. Morning walks, fresh flowers in the kitchen, journaling by the window. I used to think being alone meant something was wrong, she said. Now I know, it just means I'm whole. That wholeness radiates outward. A woman who enjoys her own presence doesn't cling in relationships. She gives without losing herself. She listens without interrupting. And she loves with presence, not pressure. Because she's not looking to be completed. She already is. So if you're someone who has learned to appreciate time alone, to read without distraction, to tend your garden in silence, or simply to sit with your thoughts and not run from them, you carry a beauty that's rare, a stillness that's strong, and a light that draws others in, not because you need them, but because you've made peace with who you are. In a world that's always moving, always talking, always consuming, the ability to be still and content is a quiet rebellion. And for women like you, it's also a kind of grace, the kind that doesn't shout, but gently reminds the world, I am enough. Some women walk into a room and instantly, people relax. Not because they speak the loudest or dress the boldest, but because they carry a calm energy, a grounded presence. That presence, dear friend, is a kind of power. And it often comes with age, with wisdom, with lived experience. When you've been through decades of life, of joys and heartbreaks, of raising children and saying goodbye to loved ones, you begin to see the world differently. You stop reacting to every storm. You stop judging quickly. You start listening more. And in doing so, you become someone others can lean on. You might not even realize it, but people feel it. They call you when they're unsure. They sit next to you in silence, feeling comforted without needing to explain. Your grandchild curls up beside you, not because you entertain them, but because your lap feels like home. That's what safety feels like. It's the emotional warmth of someone who doesn't demand, doesn't pressure, doesn't pretend. It's no coincidence that many older women are seen as anchors in their families or communities, not because they solve every problem, but because they remain steady when life wobbles. That steadiness comes from having seen enough, survived enough, and grown enough to know what truly matters. There's a saying I heard from a hospice nurse: the people who bring peace at the end of life are often those who've made peace within their own. That line stayed with me. Because when you've made peace with your past, when you've forgiven yourself and others, when you've let go of what no longer serves you, you become light for others in their darkness. A woman named Teresa once told me, I used to think beauty was about being admired. Now I think it's about making people feel like they belong. Teresa was 78, had weathered 2 marriages, raised 3 children, and still found time to volunteer at a women's shelter every week. They don't need fixing, she said. They need to feel safe. That's when healing begins. And she was right. Emotional safety, especially in today's noisy world, is more precious than diamonds. If you can sit with someone's pain without rushing to fix it, if you can celebrate someone else's joy without envy, if your presence says you're accepted exactly as you are, then you are offering something beautiful and rare. This kind of beauty doesn't fade with time, it grows. It's the soft, reassuring voice that says, I've been there too. It's the hand that holds without squeezing. It's the hug that doesn't ask questions. It's the kind of love the world needs more of, and the kind that lives in women like you. A woman who keeps learning, at any age, radiates a certain glow. It's not the kind of glow you get from beauty creams or jewelry. It's the light that comes from a curious mind, a resilient heart, and a soul that refuses to stay still. That light is magnetic. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who is still curious about life. Whether you're picking up a new recipe, reading a book on philosophy, or simply asking your grandchild to show you how to use a new phone app, you're sending a message to the world. I'm still here. I'm still growing. Growth isn't just for the young. In fact, the most meaningful growth often comes later in life. When you have the time to reflect, the freedom to explore, and the courage to try things without worrying so much about judgment. You've already been through enough to know that failure isn't fatal, and that change can be healing. I met a woman named Linda at a library book club last year. She was 84, wore bright blue glasses, and laughed like she meant it. I asked her what brought her there, and she said, I've never read science fiction before. Figured I'd give it a try before I die. That's the spirit. That's beauty. A mind that stays open, a heart that stays light, a life that stays rich, no matter how many candles are on the birthday cake. Studies even show that continued learning helps preserve brain health, boost mood, and reduce feelings of loneliness. But beyond the science, it's about staying connected to the world, to others, and to yourself. When you learn something new, you remind yourself that life isn't over. There's still wonder to be found, there's still music to hear, there's still laughter to share. And people notice. A woman who's actively growing is also actively inspiring. You become a role model for your children, your grandchildren, and even your peers. Not by being perfect, but by being alive, engaged, and awake to life. So whether you're taking up Tai Chi, writing poetry, trying watercolor painting, or learning a new language on your tablet, know that every new step is a seed of vitality. You are showing the world that aging doesn't mean shrinking, it means expanding. You are proof that the human spirit doesn't retire, it evolves. And that evolution, that commitment to becoming more of yourself, is not just beautiful, it's powerful. In the end, youth fades, trends pass, and even memories blur. But a woman who never stops growing carries a light that doesn't dim. She becomes someone people admire, not just for what she knows, but for how deeply she's lived. It's a beautiful thing when younger people begin to look to you, not for advice alone, but for inspiration. One of the clearest signs that you're an attractive older woman is when the younger generation notices your style, your grace, and the way you carry yourself. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've found a way of expressing who you are with quiet confidence. You no longer feel the need to chase trends or imitate the latest look. Instead, you've developed your own unique sense of style, one that fits your personality, your body, and your lifestyle. Whether it's the way you wear your scarf, the elegance of your jewelry, or simply the calm assurance in how you walk into a room, younger people can feel that authenticity. And in a world full of noise and pressure to conform, authenticity stands out. Take Elena, for example, a 70-year-old retired interior designer. She never tries to look younger than she is. She embraces her silver hair, her comfortable yet chic wardrobe, and a few signature accessories she's collected over the years. What's remarkable is how often younger women compliment her about her earrings, her choice of shoes, or the colors she combines. She told me once, "They always say I look put together, but I'm just dressing in a way that makes me feel at home in my own skin." And that's the secret. Your style becomes an extension of your inner peace. It no longer has to shout or beg for approval. Instead, it quietly says, "I know who I am." And people, especially young people navigating their own identities, can sense that. They admire the ease, the intentionality, and the self-respect that shines through in how you present yourself. This kind of admiration often goes beyond appearance. Younger women may ask how you stay so calm, how you developed your sense of self, or where you find such unique pieces. They aren't just admiring your clothes. They're admiring the life behind the clothes, the years of growth, heartbreak, discovery, and self-love that brought you to where you are now. In fact, your fashion choices, no matter how simple, can become a quiet rebellion against the idea that beauty has an age limit. You show by example that elegance has no expiration date, that refinement and charm aren't lost with age, they deepen. And that message is powerful, especially to young women bombarded with pressure to look perfect. So if you've ever had a younger person compliment your outfit, ask for styling advice, or simply look at you with admiration, cherish that moment. Because it's not just about how you look, it's about who you've become. And when your presence inspires others to feel more comfortable in their own skin, that's true beauty in motion. As we reach the end of this journey, I invite you to pause for a moment and reflect. What if true beauty was never meant to be about looking young? What if it was always meant to be about presence, wisdom, and the quiet glow of a life well lived? You see, growing older doesn't take beauty away. It simply transforms it. The fine lines around your eyes, the silver in your hair, the calm in your voice. These aren't flaws to hide, they are stories. They are evidence of laughter, of tears, of choices made with love. That is beauty. Real, undeniable, lasting beauty. I've met many women over the years, mothers, teachers, business owners, artists, who tell me they no longer feel visible. They feel overlooked in a world obsessed with youth. And I always tell them this: the world may not always recognize your beauty, but that doesn't mean it isn't there. Sometimes it takes another mature woman to see it. Sometimes it takes looking in the mirror with softer eyes. Think of the 8 signs we explored together. The quiet confidence, the gentle grace, the ability to listen deeply, the way others feel drawn to you. These aren't just signs that you're attractive. These are signs that you've become someone truly magnetic, that your presence brings comfort, strength, and inspiration to those around you. And if you've been doubting your worth, if you've been asking, am I still beautiful? Let me say this clearly. Yes, you are. In ways that no wrinkle cream or magazine cover can ever describe. Your beauty lives in how you treat others, how you carry yourself, how you've survived and thrived. It lives in your laughter, your wisdom, your willingness to keep growing. So please, don't hide, don't shrink, stand tall in who you are. Wear the colors that bring you joy, speak your truth, share your gifts. You are not invisible, you are radiant. And I would truly love to hear from you. Has today's message resonated with your own experience? Have you felt the world look past you, or perhaps seen someone's eyes light up simply because of your presence? I invite you to leave a comment below. Your words might be exactly what another woman needs to hear right now. If you found this video meaningful, consider subscribing to the channel. Just click that button. It's free, and it means you won't miss future messages about living fully, aging gracefully, and embracing the power of your story. I'm Dr. David Collins, and it's been my honor to walk this path with you. Wherever life takes you next, may you carry this truth in your heart. Mature beauty is not something you lose. It's something you earn, and it's something the world needs more of. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself, and never forget, you are beautiful, just as you are, just as you've always been. If you found this video meaningful, consider subscribing to the channel. Just click that button. It's free, and it means you won't miss future messages about living fully, aging gracefully, and embracing the power of your story.